For this project, we are going to need 4 long painter sticks, a bunch of clothespins, and a cute star to put on top of our Christmas tree. Now, we are going to take 2 painter sticks and we are going to measure out the length we need at the top. And we're going to be starting up at the top where that groove is, where you could put your hand to hold the painter stick. And we're going to use our miter box and we are going to cut out 4 different sizes. They're going to start getting longer as they go, and then we're going to take some hot glue and some wood glue for that long-term, short-term hold, and then we're going to just put that right on and glue all of them down into place. Now, I wanted to make sure mine didn't fall apart, so I went ahead and used my staple gun, and then I'm also going to add my star at the top. At this point, it has started to look like a little Christmas tree, and we're going to need something to put it in. So we're going to take one of these boxes from the Dollar Tree that normally has a drawer in it. I took the drawer out because I wanted to put some florals and picks inside of it. So you can see here that I've pushed down into the foam. Now I'm going to add some glue, slide that back inside, and then to make sure that it has a nice, good, firm hold in there, I'm going to also use my staple gun on the back side of the box. These are all going to be covered up with paint in a little bit, which is, you're seeing me here using my green, and then on the bottom of the box, I didn't show me painting that, but I painted that one white. But you can honestly paint this whatever you want. If you're going for a more modern farmhouse look, you can paint it black, and you can paint it any other colors that you might like for your holiday season. Now I'm going to take 2 strips of ribbon and I'm going to create the easiest bow ever without fussing with tying it, and you're just going to bring in the ends and create a really cute bow. I like to call this my faux bow because it's just so fast. And then I add a little button in the middle to conceal that it's not actually tied. Now I'm going to use some picks from the Dollar Tree, put that inside, and then add on some of those clothespins so that you can put your cards on for the Christmas season. You are going to take 5 popsicle sticks, lay them out evenly spaced, and then you're going to take a 6th one and make it at an angle to create a roof line. These will slide a little bit because you're not hot gluing them in place, and then you're just going to create pencil lines so you know where to cut off the excess that you don't need. You're going to have 2 shorter ones, 2 taller ones, and then the popsicle stick that is in the center point, you're not cutting it at all. Once you've got all of those things cut out, you're ready to move on to assembling. And I just used my scissors because I found that it's easiest to cut them this way. Now, popsicle sticks with hot glue, when you put them on the wood, it dries really quickly. So I recommend only doing 1 dot at a time. It'll make your project look much better without having dried, caked on glue, and things will lay flat and even. So I'm doing them 1 at a time. I did the outer walls first, then I did the center point, and then I'm doing the middle sticks. I don't know what to call these, but basically the middles. And then to make it really strong and sturdy, I'm going to reinforce the back with some more hot glue and then another popsicle stick. This is going to lock the walls all into place and make it really high quality versus it just falling apart. Now we're going to work at the roof line. Take a popsicle stick and lay it at the top. Create that little line that you need, and then you're going to lay them on top of each other and you're going to trace it. And I like doing it this way because we're going to miter these edges together, and we want to make sure we have a perfect seamless miter edge. And so you can see when I put them next to each other, they're going to be the same size, and then when you flip it over and mirror the image, it creates a roof line. So I'm going to just add that hot glue really quick and get that roof line on so it doesn't dry, and make sure you leave enough room for both of that roof line at the very tip top to meet together on the middle stick. If you have any excess, make sure you wipe it away if it's cool enough to the touch. Otherwise, you can use a popsicle stick to clean up any excess glue that spills out. Once you've got those in place, you're going to flip it over and then add 2 more of those miter corner roof lines to the other side so that it's really strong and sturdy, and again looks store-bought. Now I want to make it look even stronger and long lasting and pretty, so I'm going to add some hot glue to the bottom, making sure I fill in any of those little holes. And this is great if you plan on painting it, but make sure you just clean up any excess glue with an extra popsicle stick. Now I decided to paint mine with some brown paint and watered it down to create more of a stained look versus a pigmented solid paint look. We're going to go ahead and move on to the star. I'm terrible at drawing stars, so I like to do the continuous line star, and then cutting it out is way easier than trying to create your 5 points yourself. I really struggle with that. Then I'm going to add just any color paint I have on hand that's light colored, and I'm going to sprinkle some glitter on it because why not? We want our star to be sparkly for baby Jesus. Once you've got that done, you'll let it dry to the side, and then you're going to take some twine and some hot glue, and you're going to create your little loop to be able to hang up your ornament on your tree. And it's really simple. You're just going to put a little hot glue up at the top peak, and it's going to just sneak right down in there between those popsicle sticks, and then you can add your star to the top. For this DIY, I'm going to be using this staircase spindle that I also picked up from Habitat for Humanity, as well as some Dollar Tree products. You all know I love my Dollar Tree DIYs, and so I'm going to be using this staircase spindle to make the most beautiful farmhouse angel that I know you're all going to get so excited when you see how I create the wings, because it is really something. All right, we're going to take these two signs and we're going to lay them right next to each other with the spindle right in the middle, and we're going to start just tracing out these wings. Now I love using these signs because you can cut them and shape them to whatever you might need for your project. It does take a little bit of elbow grease, but you know what? Once you get the shape you want, you can do some cool things. So here I am at this point. I'm taking my craft knife and I'm making sure I'm cutting on my mat. Don't ever cut just directly on your table, obviously, but I'm just going to say just in case you're a new crafter. And I'm just scoring all along these, and I'm cutting them and snapping them as I go. And if there's any rough edges, I'm going to be snipping it with my scissors or my craft knife in any tough areas, and then sanding it to get the shape that we need. Once I've got two of those done, I put them to the side, and we're going to start working on the body of the angel. So we're going to take this sign from this little wood plaque, actually, from the Dollar Tree. I filled in the holes, and then I'm doing a countersink hole right here. My drill bit is not big enough. You all know if you've been watching for a while, I need to get bigger drill bits. But I'm going in with a smaller drill at this point, and I'm going to just pre-drill some holes to make sure I don't splinter or crack anything, because this stairway spindle is pretty old and I don't want to have any issues with it. So I went ahead and started my screw, got everything all lined up, and I'm putting on some wood glue and some hot glue for that short-term, long-term hole that you all know I love so much. And now I'm going back in, and I started to screw it in, and now I'm just twisting to get it in place, and then I'll go back in one more time to really sink in that screw, and it should be nice and flat at the bottom. Now this is the cool part where the wings start to happen. I'm so excited about this part. I went ahead and took my staple gun, and I'm just going to staple all up the spine of this angel. And I'm going to do it on both sides, and it is so secure on here, friends. Now this is where it really starts to come to life. I'm going to take the smallest popsicle stick that there is, and then we're going to just keep cutting them down. We want to have the rounded edges. This is the bottom of the wing, and then we're going to just keep adding on more pieces. As we add on more and more and more, we keep shifting our way up, and just have fun with it. Move things around. Make sure that you're trying to cover up any gaps that would show that original sign. Once I got that part down, I moved up to the tongue depressor stick size, did a few rows of that, made sure I was curving along the edge, and then I moved on to these really big sticks that I picked up from Walmart. And I love these because they cover even more surface, and this is really where it's going to start to take the shape of that wing. When you get to the top, just keep using your pencil to create the shape that you need, cut things out, and then just continue to layer until you get the desired look that you want on the wing. I really had a lot of fun creating this part and just shaping everything to get the look that I was going for, and just kept working with it until the entire wing was completely covered. And make sure you go all the way into the groove between the stair spindle and the wing to make sure it's all nice and covered in there. Now once that was all done, I went ahead and moved on to the head. I'm just drilling out a hole, adding in one of these sticks, one of the craft sticks from the Dollar Tree, and then this ornament. When I saw this, I knew that this could be a head for an angel, so I snagged it. And how cool is it that it has the exact same scalloped texture as the wings? I thought that this was meant to be together. I was so thrilled over this. So once I added a little hot glue, I went ahead and twisted it onto the body of the angel. And now I wanted to create some depth and some texture to this angel and her wings. So I'm going to go ahead and go in with a pretty gray color, and I'm just going to work into all of those little crevices, making sure everything is covered in the gray color, and making sure that I just keep tapping as I go. This is, I think, probably where it goes from just being a craft to a high-end looking item that you might see in an actual boutique. And then I made sure I flipped it over, got all the sides, got the back, and I'm going to also paint the bottom base this color, but I'm going to come back in with some white paint and dry brush over the wings and the feathers, and I'm going to dry brush over the base as well. Make sure you have very little paint on your brush as you're doing this. This is the dry brush technique, and then just keep working with it until you get that desired look that you want. Now I wanted to be able to have my angel holding up a wreath in between her because, well, I like little tiny wreaths, and why not? So I went ahead and took some of this garland, twisted it around into a smaller wreath, and then to make it look more high-end, I'm going to take some boxwood and I'm going to add that to the wreath. But once I had everything all twisted into place, I'm now going to take this. I picked these up from Hobby Lobby on a really long vine, and I just cut it up until I get everything all used up, and then I go and pick up another one. Now I'm going to add some berries, and I'm just going to really finish off this look by making sure I don't have any bald areas on it. I wanted to make sure it looks really covered and really beautiful. And then the last, add a bow to finish the look and hang it on your angel. Nutcracker ornament is super cost efficient. I'm going to take 5 popsicle sticks with some black paint and paint half of the popsicle sticks with black paint. This is going to be the top part of the hat. Hold them all in place as you're painting them to make sure that the distance that you're painting down is not too far into where his face is going to be. And then make sure you also paint around the sides of it so that it's covered really well. Then for the brim of his hat, I'm going to take another popsicle stick and just snip off the rounded parts and to make sure it's the right length for his hat. And because my tree is going to be a green themed tree, I am using the color green, but you can paint this whatever color you would like. Then while that paint is drying, I'm going to go and move on to doing his face. Now I'm going to use a Sharpie marker to initially start, but you're going to see in a little bit I'm going to come back in with paint. And I do have a regret doing it this way because, friends, I should have waited for that green popsicle stick to dry so I can glue the sticks all down and in place. You can see that it's shifting around, so just be patient and make sure the paint dries before you draw on the mustache and the eyebrows. See how it's shifting around? I was struggling with this a little bit, and as I was going I kept thinking, oh, I should have just been patient and waited for the green stick to dry. Then once the stick was dry, I was able to add it and hold it all into place and move on to the next part, which is going to be the back side. I flipped it over and I took 2 more sticks just to help stabilize it so that it's nice and strong quality ornament versus it being that it looks like you did a craft project at home. I like my ornaments and my DIYs to look really well made. So then when I flipped it over and the hot glue was all held in place with these sticks, I went ahead and took some of that black paint and went back over it again, like I said, and just filled in some of those spots that I missed because of the sticks shifting around, and I should have been patient. Then at the bottom of his eyebrows, you're going to make 2 lines. Now this is going to be where you draw in his eyeballs with the paint. I took the back side of my paintbrush because I just liked the thickness of that and felt that it was more control than the bristles on my brush. And I just made 2 whites of his eyes. So I'm going right up to the line. It's almost even a half circle. It's not a full circle. And then for his mouth, I took some red paint and drew a line down at the bottom. And you're going to see that I'm going to flip over my brush again. I actually use the back side of my paintbrush all the time when I'm painting for little areas that are kind of tricky that paintbrushes don't let me get into. Then while that's drying, I moved on to his nose. I took the end of a popsicle stick and just put that right on where the mustache is between his eyes and got that into place. And then when the paint was still drying, it wasn't ready yet, I moved on to the feather at the top of his hat. So again, I'm using green for our home, and these feathers also came from the Dollar Tree, a huge pack of them. There was all sorted colors inside of them, so it was really fun to pick out the one that would work best for my decor in my home. I took another spot of hot glue. This time it's a bigger dollop of it so that the bead, when I push it down, the glue is going to kind of push out around this pearl because I want to glam it up just a little bit, not too crazy. I'm going to take some really thick coarse glitter that I found at Target that I just loved, and I'm going to just sprinkle that on that spot of that hot glue so it kind of makes his hat look a little fancy. Now going back to his face, I made the blue part of his eyeballs and then took little white dots and added those to the eyeballs, and then on his teeth I just made little white teeth. This is my favorite part for sure on this ornament. I took some fluffy fabric. Now I got this at Joann's, but you could just go to the Dollar Tree where they have their towels and pick up one of their towels. This will work really well on this part too. And on the back side, I glued them down first, then put a bead of glue, and then wrapped it around the front of his face. These nutcrackers are so cute, and you can make them with all different colors to match your tree and your decor. And then at the top, so that it can hang up, you're just going to take some twine, which I also got from the Dollar Tree, and you're going to just hot glue it into place.